So thank you all for joining us here. We're going to be talking about unlocking the secrets to global connectivity on the move with IoT Telematics. Joined today by Curtis Govan, President of the Americas here at floLIVE. He serves as our president for North America. He's an accomplished leader with 25 years of broad experience and expertise in the technology leadership, business development, and sales. He was most recently the GM and Global VP Dealer and Heavy Equipment for Uptake, an industry leader in industrial artificial intelligence and IoT. Prior to joining Uptake, Curtis spent almost 12 years at Cisco Jasper, where he held several roles, with the most recent being Head of Global Sales Business Development and Regional Manager Director Canada. So thank you, Joe, for joining us, Curtis. We're pleased to have you.
Thank you, Lisa. Glad to be here. Looking forward to the conversation today.
Great. We're also joined by Dean, who is the North American Director for our friends at Quake Global. So Dean Richmond serves as Quake Global's Director for North America. He's 25 years of leadership experience in IT, wireless, and IoT products, leading to go-to-market efforts in sales, service, product, and marketing. He's led technology startups in major established companies like Sony and Toshiba, along with up-and-coming wireless companies like Nextivity. While starting in the PC and gaming industry, hey, that's fun, he spent the last 10 years concentrating on wireless and IoT products, working with connected solutions and partners across the globe to delivery. Thank you, Dean, for joining us. We want to hear about that gaming thing later.
Yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure. Always good to talk with you both.
Well, good, well, good. So I'll go ahead and advance us forward and we can dive right in. All right, Curtis, you can kick us off?
Yeah, so let's maybe start off a little bit about floLIVE. I'll tell you, this topic that we're covering today for telematics is, yeah, it's near and dear one, because telematics, if you look at the foundational piece of IoT, when it was M2M, when it was just telematics, you know, it's been around for a long time. It's a key piece that is improving and growing. Year over year, we see more telematics area solutions there. And now I will say the extent of the growth of that globally has just been tremendous over the last 5 years that we've seen. So very opportune time to talk about telematics, and we're happy to have Dean here with Quake to share in the story there. A little bit about floLIVE. We are a UK-based IoT software as a service company. We have a cloud-native suite of IoT SaaS services that we offer there. All of these services are designed, built, and deployed and managed by floLIVE engineers. This is a fundamentally key part for us, that we own as much of the technology as possible, so we can deliver the highest quality of service at the best cost that we can for our customer base there. What you have under the floLIVE solution there, we have under one platform a suite of services that really meet the needs across the ecosystem when it comes to mobile network operators, MVNOs, ISP, IoT service providers, and that can be in a heavy format where they have their own core network that they use from us, or in the light resale model where they're just buying SIMs, integrating with us, and using all the services we have. We also support enterprises and OEMs, and we look across all of the services there. So everything from really the only IoT provider in the world that has both EUICC from a consumer perspective and for an IoT perspective, because, you know, there's some IoT solutions that are right in between that use the consumer version of it there. We also have our patented multi-MC technology that we use with what we call an advanced UICC and also an advanced EUICC solution there. And then we have with our connectivity management platform that we provide directly to mobile network operators, MVNOs, and enterprises there. And we also have the floLIVE core network, which is a full stack 3GPP core network, enterprise grade, or carrier grade, I should say, core network, where we make all of the elements. So think of, if you needed to deploy a fully private standalone network, we have all of the network elements, both 4G and 5G, to support those type of deployments. And then kind of what is at the crux of what we're providing from a overall perspective, it's the hyper-local global connectivity that we have. And all of these, if you look at how we deploy it, everything is cloud native there. So we can deploy 100% on the cloud, or we can deploy a hybrid, you know, some physical premises, some in cloud, however our customers need it. They're also all built on microservices there. So if you only needed an HLR HSS, only needed a PGW, only need our connectivity management platform, we can sell those individual components as microservices there. Fully white labeled, customized to how customers need to consume it. We also know that a number of our customers have their own systems that they need to integrate with. So we have a REST based suite of APIs that basically all the functionality that you have through the user interface, you can get that through an API interface. And then I'll say, a lot of people wouldn't even bring this up, but because it's such a key differentiator for us from supporting our customers, our support team is second to none in the world. They're available 24/7, 365. Okay, a lot of people would say that, but I will tell you that our support is really tier 3 support. They have access to the tools that we have because we own the core network. Literally, if you have a problem with the network within minutes, they can pull the network logs. Anybody that you're online with, anybody that you're on a phone with can pull the detailed logs and analyze those logs with you in real time. So it's an extremely powerful piece because, ultimately we want to be able to support our customers better. And we know that customers like Quake are absolutely fanatical about supporting their customers. So we want to provide them with the best absolute service as possible there. Yes, if you look and go on to the next slide for me, please, Elisa. I want to delve just a little bit more into our hyperlocal global connectivity. And when we say we're integrated and we have our own core, the thing to note is that we're deeply integrated with our core network, globally distributed around the world. So you have things like lower latency. You're able to meet GDPR requirements or data sovereignty or security requirements because the core network isn't centrally located and having to travel back across oceans, different borders there. It can be centrally located wherever you are at the edge, if you will. If you need to do that, we can deploy within a customer's data center, as an example. And we've done that with over 27 different operators with 40 different MNOs. Overall, with different POPs, different solutions around the world there, so we can localize and provide really unprecedented connectivity. And then if you look at the functionality of the platform, all of that tied back into one single platform with a single SIM all over the world, you're connected with that platform in the same way. Literally, the service that you get in the US is exactly what you would get in Brazil, exactly what you would get in South Africa and Europe and Asia. All over the world, that same single interface, same single platform that's multi-tenant. So if you have a organizational structure that has different regions, different product lines, if you have dealers, distributors down the line, all of that can be supported all through the single platform, through the multi-tenant, multi-tier setup there. And then the multi-MZ piece is really kind of the heart of it that says with that single SKU of SIM, you have access to all of the networks that we have available, not only with a single network in a single country, but multiple networks for every country that we have deployment in. So it really is, from our perspective, the best in class scenario that you can provide for global connectivity. I will note, just if you look there a little bit to the left, you see a satellite there. We're soon releasing our Release 17 non-terrestrial networks solution there that has NB-IoT over satellite with our friends from Skylo. So that'll be coming down the pike really soon there. I think we're scheduled to have some beta testing starting later this month with a general availability early to mid in June. So yeah, it's a little bit overview of what we have at floLIVE. And would love to have as a follow-up, a conversation directly with the customers here. Thank you.
Great. Hard act to follow there, Curtis, but I think we can do it. So I'm Dean Richmond. I'm with Quake Global, as Lisa mentioned. We're a San Diego-based communications company delivering award-winning solutions across the IoT spectrum. We're going to talk a little bit on telematics today and kind of where we fit in the universe. We've been around for a little over 25 years. We are the father of a lot of the modern satellite modem and telematics, and obviously we're doing global cellular coverage as well. So no matter what your needs are, whether satellite or cellular, we have a platform for you. And we've delivered these products in that time over 150 countries, and really supplied millions of tracking units. So we've reached all sorts of segments here. So we sell to OEMs, software VARs, and integrators. So we touch the construction and mining OEMs, the transportation and vehicle OEMs, agriculture and forestry OEMs, your forklifts and your battery OEMs. That's a really hot market right now as the world is becoming more electrified, right? And then aviation and drones, rail and maritime, and oil and gas. Now, these are programmable solutions. So we've worked with a number of names, covering really your top 25 names in the industry. We're really serving all of those today. And that is only growing as you've seen the numbers, where this is a multi-billion-dollar industry in the IoT and telematics space. This is a space that has been taking off for years. So this isn't a new category by any means. As Curtis pointed out, used to be M2M, right? And tracking and general security is where I think the heritage of this industry, but service support and really uptime performance is where it evolved to, putting a clear ROI for companies. But about 5 years ago, you added new layers of technology, video, and you've seen even more advances with AI in this space, in which it's how it's leveraging that video and really creating a safer vehicle, safer work environment. But really the red hot area today is around fuel efficiency in battery monitoring. These huge batteries that are in these things have multi-cells. So to have cell level performance is an important data point when really analyzing the engineering quality, uptime, and service. So what are we pulling off a machine? Again, these are programmable solutions to manage, monitor, and secure your equipment, your machine, your vehicle, whether it's via Canvas or iOS or Ethernet. You can pull any data point that you need to over the air, and you can see even connecting to your ECUs, delivering updates to and from the machine or vehicle in question. Now, every single one of these solutions are customizable. So you program your device, your solution to reach your platform. So we're not the platform. We just bring the data to and from. So whether you are custom creating your own platform, already have a platform, or are in need of a software platform, we have many software partners in this side. There is a solution that is custom built for you. And then there's also that integrator level as well, and maybe for a little smaller of a solution. This can be as simple or complex as you need it to be. Again, I touched on that equipment location. That's kind of the bedrock of where this all started, and it's only grown from there. So we have two basic platforms. The Q4000, and that is a satellite solution, whether it's Iridium or Orbcomm, and then a global LTE Cat-M NB-IoT, and then GNSS. And again, it's programmable. It's the world's first dual modem. So it can do satellite when you need it to do satellite, cellular when you need it to do cellular. We have about 3 models under that model family, and it can be customized to you. Then there's the Q-Connect. The Q-Connect is a global LTE Cat1 device, and it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth capability, Ethernet, GNSS, and has a battery included. Now, both of these model families are, again, field upgradable, over-the-air software updatable to itself, and then to the whole environment within the vehicle or machine or piece of equipment. And that is kind of the lineup of where we want to talk about. Now, with that, we are agnostic in the way we do either satellite or cellular. So we're always looking for great partners like floLIVE, who can serve the whole world. We have one product with our configurations that can serve the whole planet. So if we can have a cellular solution that can serve the whole planet, then we're in business. And that's kind of my segue back to you, Curtis.
Yeah, exactly. I think that that issue that we see in the market there is definitely like, this is the root of the floLIVE solution, right? We had in the early days when our founders were thinking about what are we building for the IoT space that's really not 100% serving the space today. And 5 years ago, when 6, 7 years ago, when we were starting the company there, you had a lot of local solutions there, but you didn't really have those solutions that were really global, that could meet, the permanent roaming restrictions there, that had uniform behavior. Normally people would do some bespoke solution for every market there, or you had something that didn't meet the performance requirement because it was one single network in one country, and if you roamed everywhere, you had limited access to carriers there, and the data was always going back to some central location, so you'd have latency issues or regulatory problems with those solutions there. Another key one that we see that's really come up, and I think it's interesting to see in the telematics space what people have kind of come accustomed to and have adapted to. And that last one, there's that consistency along routes, right? Oh, normally people, if they lost connection, they would just go like, look, we just have to accept it because there's no other choice. When you have access to multiple networks, you can switch networks. Like, now you have a choice, and we're seeing customers that are saying, yeah, look, I really need this package to be tracked, this asset to be tracked for every 15 minutes. If I lose it for 15 minutes, then my risk go up. What happened? Did it get damaged? Did it get over temp? Is it lost or stolen? Are people replacing things? Like, we have one solution where if you have a ship, it goes in the shipyard and it's there and they lose track of it, like literally government regulations say you can no longer send that to the US. Because we don't know if somebody replaced the product, if they did it with knockoff product, off market, things like that. So that consistency along routes is one that we're seeing more and more come up. And it's because people realize that, no, now I can have consistency. Now I can get those reports every 15 minutes with multiple technologies like satellite, but with also the multi-IMSI, multi-network solutions there. All right, so yeah, like we've talked a little bit about this already in passing, but I think one of the exciting things that's happened over the last 5 years there is that finally for telematics, for IoT, we have technology from a standard perspective that was built for specifically for IoT. And that's in the low power wide area solutions there that we have. And you look at the fundamentals of there, like we need a solution that is not just layered on top of what we built for consumer and business solutions, mobile phones, but we need something that's specific for IoT. What do you have? We need something that needs a wide reach. We've got the significant bandwidth that is needed for low bandwidth solutions there that are the 1 to 2 megs, maybe 5 megs a month. Like you need that reduced capacity there, so you don't need the absolute blazing speed that you get with 5G. Lower speeds are okay, but I'm going to balance that with a wider reach so I can have broader connectivity. And then I also will say, look, I also need to have power saving components that are built into LPWA. That's really critical for them. And then it's like the key thing that we're seeing for all of the asset tracking, remote monitoring solutions there that really require battery savings there. That's really the key piece there for LPWA with functionality like EDRX. They're, always had DRX forever, but now having that next evolution of EDRX where you can turn on and off the radio without losing the connection and having to reconnect. Power save mode also does the same thing there. So we're seeing that those assets that really require, the tracking, the traditional tracking, remote monitoring, geofencing solutions there, taking advantage of the LPWA solution. Almost every solution is using the current, or I'll say the legacy version of LPWA, which is Cat-M, NB, and then more and more solutions that are moving to Cat-1 bis now in the future there. LTE 5G there, like the addition there, we now see that, there are solutions that are saying, hey, look, I need to monitor my solution in real time. I need to get real time transmission there so I can get this telematics data is something that's more visual, more required, like dash cams as an example there, where they need data in remotely, immediately. We have some customers that are doing like site surveys and they have equipment out in the field where they're getting real-time feedback into the back-end office so they can help with the survey there. A lot of remote equipment in the space that are using that faster, low latency solutions there for that piece of telematics. So that one is really a growing piece there. And of course, the legacy satellite combined with the new satellite of Release 17, I'm telling you, there's tremendous amount of buzz about that. We've done a couple webinars on that, but literally we're getting dozen customers every 2 weeks asking about it, getting in the pipeline, ready to start their testing, getting their module plan in place there so they can add that to that solution. And again, I think it goes back to what you said earlier, Dean, where people now are looking at that single solution that they can track everywhere in the world. So those gaps are now starting to get filled in with the Release 17 solution there. And we're going to see more and more of those applications come into play.
Yeah, I definitely see us at a crossroads with 5G advancements that are coming and the satellite advancements. There's going to be a whole lot of change in the market coming in the next few years.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This is a really exciting. I don't think I've seen the community as excited about a technology. I mean, 5G is one where most of the excitement on 5G is really around what you get in the consumer space. The IoT pieces there have certainly been, championed because they're, the ultra low latency and the, slicing of the network. These are exciting, but I haven't seen people that are saying, I'm going to move on that. I have a solution today. But
Right.
on the satellite side, because it really touches the legacy of IoT, which is telematics, I think we're seeing a lot of momentum in that area because there are demands right now, right? It's not like we need to do a new solution and vet it. They know the solutions require this additional coverage footprint, And so I think we'll see a much faster adoption of this technology than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like one of the things that we will talk about, and I'll reiterate it here because it's important in what we do at floLIVE, is owning the technology, in particular the core network, gives us a lot of flexibility in what we can do from a SIM perspective even, right? We can customize the solution overall, and this is another critical thing that we talk about with you, Dean, and with all of the customers, that we can customize because we own the pieces here. But particularly when it comes to SIM, like literally any SIM form factor that a customer needs, whether it's your traditional plastic, the new MFF2, the iSIM, or even a soft SIM, because everything gets provisioned on the floLIVE HSS, we have the autonomy to support anything. So we do that. And then from a general perspective, we have our multi-MC solution there that we use with UICC there. And this is, like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of the heart. It's the keys to the kingdom. You literally can take that single SIM and say, I need access to all of the floLIVE networks globally there. You can do that on one single SIM with a lot of automation that allows you to go in between networks, to switch to networks, to prefer networks, to prefer different radio access types. I want to be on CAT-M as a preferred, NB as a second, and CAT-M or CAT1 or LTE next. Like all of those things can be customized in our SIM applet and automated. And then on top of that, we realize that the device on the edge has the most information there and is able to make the best decisions in terms of the networks to select and what SIM technology to use. So we allow our customers to use user control on the SIM as well. So they have more knowledge at the edge for the automation of how to use the SIM. We allow to do that and have full control of the SIM and what networks they're selecting and what MZs they have access to. So we have that from the multi-MZ, and then we support the standard UICC in place, and we have a lot of customers come to us asking us for that. I will say most don't use it as a standalone product. Most are using what you see highlighted in the box next, and that's multi-MZ over UICC. So this allows you to get the best of both worlds. Prime example of this, and for Turkey as an example, that's a restricted country. If you go to Turkey, you have the floLIVE MZ embedded in an EUICC profile. So you have multi-MZ running in an EUICC profile that gives you everything that you see on the left within an EUICC profile. But if you go to Turkey and you need to localize, and Turkey requires that you download a profile there, the floLIVE MC will allow you to connect. And then once you're connected, and we know from the network logs that we get in real time on our core network, we know that you're in Turkey, and then you're able to detect that and do the SMSR switch and download the local profile. So you have EUICC, the EUICC profile of the local Turkish carrier there and services there. So this technology allows us to say, what do you need from a solution perspective that best fits your business from a SIM side, and we can customize the solution to meet what the customer needs.
And I'm glad you brought up Turkey. Is that was one of the countries that attracted us to you first. As I mentioned, we're agnostic in all of this, and how that a relationship would work is, again, you partner with one of our partners, and then they provide the solution for factory install. But if you're with a company that has to have a different solution by country, then you're not reaching the full benefit of the hardware that is global, and you would have to have multiple SKUs. And there's a cost to that, right? To have multiple inventories and things like that. So this solution all by itself, that global solution, it is really reaping the benefits of having global hardware by having that.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, in my 17 years now in the business, specifically focused on IoT, right? reduction of SKUs has probably been the most commonly asked for thing. It's like, hey, how do I get fewer SKUs? And how do I get the same solution around the world? Right. As opposed to something bespoke. And yeah, I agree. This is something that is it's mandatory for the industry to grow. Right. I think when we all look back at, now for a decade and a half, there's been the promise of billions of IoT devices, which I think we're at, but the multiple billions of devices, like the opportunity is there, the need is there. What we've done now is say we can build it to scale.
Right.
And having bespoke solutions and multiple SKUs there just isn't scalable. We've seen this with multiple companies that, this has been the bottleneck, that they've had the multiple SKUs and different integrations to support. And so getting all of that streamlined, like now we're in the best position to scale that we've ever been.
Yeah, and obviously all of these solutions are just getting smarter, smarter, and smarter. And that's the beauty of it. Whether it be on our device where it's programmable and you can do all of this stuff on the edge and not have to send over every bit of data, right? Or your solution, which really allows for one solution for any market. Very attractive, very attractive.
I agree. Yeah, I'll say for me, it's like fundamentally, like I'm an engineer at heart in my training, and when you look at it ultimately, like you just want to solve problems, right? And like I feel so good about having the ability to solve problems now versus where we were, like you had limitations before and you of course solved around that, but now I feel like man, there's almost no limitations. We have standardized technology, we own the core, we have customers like yourself that really understand the other side of the piece there, so we're collectively optimizing to give our joint customers the best possible solution. Yeah, this latency one is, I'll tell you, we'll cover it and build it out if you will, Lisa. But this is going back to it and say like 101 roaming. This is what people will say. We had a campaign that we did, I think now a couple of years ago. We said roaming is dead, and the reality is roaming as you know it is dead. Why is it dead? Because it just doesn't meet the demands of customers. Will you look at our solution and say, "Yeah, but you're doing roaming"? You might. But if you look at how we do it, you'll say it's nothing like you've done before. With the localization of the core network, this component really comes into play. And like I said, most of our new telematics devices are using LPWAN, right? So they're trying to conserve battery life for solutions there. And if you look at what lower latency does for that, imagine you're connecting every 15 minutes for a device, 24 hours a day. And every time you connect, at a minimum, you're saving, what is that, 320 milliseconds every time you connect. Now, of course, we know, I'm assuming you did a send and a receive and you had, 160 milliseconds between the two. But that's not the reality. In reality, if you're using TCP/IP, you got to open the socket, send your data, acknowledge that you open the socket, send your data, close the socket there. That's going to take much longer. But at a minimum, you're saving 320 milliseconds per transmission there. From a battery life and a battery consumption perspective there, this is something that customers had never thought of this. Like I said, like they just come accustomed to like, we can't get much battery life improvement out of the existing solution. But when you own the core and you put the core regionally located, when you put it in country and you're reducing the latency to sub 100 millisecond times, now you're starting to play into battery savings pieces there that are really critical. And the performance goes up, you lower jitter, things like that. So now you have solutions like dash cams and real-time video that are much higher performing, but also the ones that are the telematics pieces that are driven by data, by battery. Now you're saving battery life on those as well. All right. So this is one where, when we look now at the combination of solutions there, like I said, working with partners like Quake that really understand the ecosystem and the problems in the field with real-time, real-life customers and those customer applications there. This is where, as a floLIVE team, we are really excited about working with partners like Dean, because now we take the technology we have. And this first component, like, don't underestimate what we're saying here. We can now optimize the network, and the devices are optimized. The solution between the device, the Quake device, and the app backend application is optimized. We're now to the point now where, for an individual solution, we have the absolute best opportunity to optimize. We're like everybody. I just was in a meeting this morning, and this was the key thing that we left with is we can optimize. We don't have a network that's built for consumer that's not going to get any more optimization than what consumer has. We have a network that's built for IoT. It can be customized for individual telematic solutions to meet the performance requirements that you absolutely need. So this is probably the key thing that if I'm asking, what do you leave with? Leave with this piece. We can optimize because we own the core, because Dean owns the hardware, and he knows the solution from end to end that we can all build together to build the absolute best solution there. And I think the rest of this, Dean, from global connectivity, we've talked about that piece there. I think some of these things you can speak to in more detail with the hardware piece that you guys have, and then the fleet management and the technology choices that are available.
Well said. Well said. So I think, do we have any questions that we need to hit?
We do. And this presentation and recording will be available after the webinar is over. So if you had a part that you loved and you want to hear it again, or you want to share it, you'll be able to do that shortly as well. And so a couple of seed questions that we have. First one, I currently use a local US carrier for my market. Will I lose priority if I go through floLIVE?
Yeah. I love this question, and I always I know I've worked very closely with operators in my past life. I was, the account manager and sales leader for multiple mobile network operators, and I know exactly where this question comes from. The answer to that is no, and I will say, look, the network prioritization and quality of service of the network is determined by one, the HLR HSS, that's floLIVE. It's controlled by the PCRF PGW, that's floLIVE. So we own that piece of the prioritization of the data, right? That is a floLIVE piece. And the reality is, even beyond that, mobile network operators don't deprioritize like roaming solutions there. Why? Because they roam themselves, and they don't want their data to be deprioritized, so they don't deprioritize the data of their roaming partners. If you look at carriers throughout the world, but I'll say specifically in the US, where the highest coverage footprint, where they own the towers, is about 70%. So if they say they have 99.9% population coverage, 29-30% of their devices are roaming. And their roaming partners aren't deprioritizing their data when they're roaming. And I will assure you that on the other side, they're not deprioritizing their roaming partners there. So yeah, the short answer is no. And then you have my rest of my long answer there.
It's a great answer. I would say that's probably the number one question that I'm asked when I'm hit on this topic. So great answer.
Yeah. And the other thing I'll note too, because this one is typically the next piece of that is like, but the permanent roaming is not allowed. It's allowed. From an IoT perspective, the legacy of IoT global roaming was there were no agreements that that included IoT. But they used it for IoT, and a lot of people said, "Hey, that wasn't the intent." But it was like pre-IoT, and no one thought about IoT, and then they put IoT on it. But now, IoT roaming is exclusively put into agreements, and it's allowed. So it's like where we provide service there, permanent roaming is 100% allowed by the local operator there. Where it's not allowed by the local operator or by a government agency there, we have localized solutions to meet those demands. Like we mentioned for Turkey earlier, we have the same for China, we have the same for Brazil, other places around the world. We have localization to meet where there are permanent roaming restrictions mandated by the government, mandated by the local carrier. We localize there with the local MC.
Yeah. And I would say, carriers overall have done an amazing job putting up towers in their markets. But with some of the changes that have happened over the last few years, there are still pockets that you don't have great coverage with a given carrier. So being able to offer multiple carriers can cover up those pockets is a definitive benefit that I see.
Completely agree.
All right, are you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Let's get it.
All right, we had a good one come in. It says, sounds great, but given the amount of opportunity for growth in the market, what are the challenges the industry and both your organizations are currently facing down?
Good question.
Big picture question. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll first lead with technology advances and changes. Security is only getting better, and there's new regulations that will be coming out soon around that. So we're feverishly working on all of that activity. Excited to make our solutions even more secure than they already are. And then obviously tech transitions, as we talked about earlier, with changes in networks and capability around 5G and new satellite capability. There's a lot, no matter what satellite carrier you're talking about, they're all making significant improvements, impacts, and changes, and adapting with that. And placing those bets. I think those are the things that are big in the industry, and we're all evolving to.
Yeah, I'll say, for us, it really is about now that we have more options for the customers that we support. Now it becomes like, oh, I never had these options. I need to consume them. How do I best consume them? So we spend a lot of time with customers, understanding their business, understanding their challenges, and maybe getting to questions that they didn't even know they could ask. Because again, as I mentioned multiple times, it was never a possibility. Now we have to ask those questions to pull out those challenges that they're having and helping them realize that we can solve it. But then what do you need? So now you have multiple options. Now you got to go back and say, how do I take advantage of that? Right. Because when you get the scale, every operations, every company will go through this. As you're scaling, you find different challenges and different problems, right? Even we have the same, every business has this. And when we're seeing this with our customers, like understanding what those layers look like and how we can do the optimization, what options are available for them. Because the normal people would go, hey, this is the device I built. It was really simple, no intelligence on the device. Great. And we say, but now we have all of these options from a SIM perspective, from a network optimization perspective, from different partners we can work with, like Quake. Oh, Now they come back to the drawing table, and that's a bit of time, right? It takes time for those applications, devices need to come up to speed, need to do some optimization on their side, test it obviously thoroughly there. But once we get to that point, and we see this now with several of our customers that we've signed up and been working with now for 4 years. Once they get to that point where they've adopted and they've optimized the technology, they're now at the point where they can get into the rapid scale mode. So we're seeing that. But that challenge of the first piece of just what do we need to do to optimize for the solution that we're collectively able to provide at floLIVE, that's the most challenging piece that we face.
Yeah, I like that answer, and you're right. Consumers are looking to do more than ever, and a wider number of them. And when I say consumers, I mean the companies that we're working with. The wider industry has been using lower level technologies and now see the benefits that maybe the top of the industry has been using for years. And they say, we need a piece of that. As all of this equipment is getting smarter, you need a solution on board that can handle that, do edge computing and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. The technology improvements on every level has gotten such that like everyone now has access to it, right? If you will, like the costs have come down. The technology is more ubiquitous and more devices, more applications there. So to your point, it's like now everybody, they saw that they could get it before, but they thought they needed to go and do some special development or the cost was prohibitive. Now we're at the point where it's accessible to multiple applications and solutions and different company sizes there. So that's a really positive thing for the industry though, because now we see that proliferation of the technology downstream. That means that lower end companies that are just starting, that are just building up their businesses and advancing and expanding, they have access to this technology. So I know definitively we see this with our customers that the early customers are able to grow much faster, sometimes even at a faster rate than legacy customers, because that technology starting point is at a much higher level.
Good point. Okay, I've got a couple more technical questions. One being, we sell machines in both the Americas and Europe. How many different profiles can I have?
The technical answer to that is you could have 10 today and as many as you need if you needed more. In reality, what we find is typically 3 profiles would at most would be sufficient, and more than likely 2. We have our global profiles that we provide that are combined with local infrastructure, regional infrastructure there. So I would say definitely in the US where we have POPs in Dallas, in Miami, in Ashburn, in Chicago, we will have you well covered there. And then in Europe, we have POPs in Sofia, Bulgaria, as well as in Germany as well. So you'd be covered with 1 or 2 MZs in general.
That's good. Okay. All right. Question for you, Dean. Specific to how do you choose which Quake platform is better for you?
That's a great question, and that's where most of our customers actually start. Which one should I be going to? I think the first question is, do you need satellite coverage? Where is your solution? And so if you're in mining or rail or maybe remote forestry, you're probably going to need satellite. And that's where we would really steer the customer right now into the Q4000 platform. If you don't need satellite, and let's say you need video capability or something like that, that's where we would go the Q Connect. Cat 1 is a little wider pipe, and you can do a little bit more with that. So that's kind of where we start the conversation. but it goes a little bit more in depth. Obviously, we'll get our engineering team, your engineering team involved, and really go and do a full analysis with you.
Well, I think a good follow-up to that is, okay, so you've picked it. How long does it take to get it up and running?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So in this process, you start with a dev kit and you begin to build out. Again, whether you are developing your own set of applications and platform, or you're using a third party. And that really, the time frame really is dependent upon resources. So if this becomes an A1 job and you're saying, I'm throwing my people at this and we want to get this done, we've got developments done within 30 days. But more often than not, it's more like a 90-day process.
That's good. That's good information. All right. And then Curtis, for you, some question on most connectivity service providers have CMPs, and a lot of them are IoT focused. It's a bit of a cheeky question, but I like it. What makes floLIVE's CMP different?
First thing I will say is that the CMP has a wealth of technology associated with it. The first thing that I would point is that it's connected to the floLIVE core network, right? That is something that I would say maybe a few now have it. Not many have it. No one has it to the extent of that we have with the core networks that are around the world. Like I mentioned earlier, connected to with 40 POPs to over 27 operators there. No one in the world has that from a core network perspective that's feeding into the platform. Ultimately, if you look at what's happening in the platform, what you want the ability to manage things in real time, to get data in real time. And we have that with our core network infrastructure feeding directly into our platform there as well. The other thing we have that no one else in the industry has is we have real-time billing and control. We don't do radius-based billing where things happen every 15 minutes, every different data increment or 2 hours, 4 hours, happens in real time. We manage the billing component the way the consumers' businesses ran across every operator in the world, right? That is tighter control. So you're never worried about runaway devices that you didn't see for 15 minutes or a couple of hours. You're going to see it in real time. You're going to be able to manage the wallet in real time. The other thing I will note is that if you look at the components, I mentioned the core, you look at the multi-MC technology that we support that also includes EOICC for both consumer and IoT. No one else has that. And then the other piece that I would note is the fact that if you combine all of these with the MCs, like that tight of control that you have for the overall system there, no one else in the industry has that. No one even comes close to that. As a single entity, no one comes close to that combination of solution that we have there. And the normal bells and whistles that you get with a CMP, okay, that's table stakes, we have that. But having it in real time, having it connected to a core network that is operating the same around the world, that's getting you the real-time information, real-time control, none of that is possible, right? And I will say, when you're on the core network too, it's like, what else can the CMP do when you have the core network? Can you do real-time steering? We can do that with our core network, right? So there are a lot of detailed functionality that we'd love to get into, but just note that like owning all of those pieces and putting them together really gives you a distinct advantage over the CMP, right? If you want to just turn on, turn off devices and apply a rate plan, that's generally what every CMP does. If you really want to get into the details of managing your business super closely there, optimizing even the business processes there, you need the kind of CMP that we have.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you both so very much. We have a couple more questions, but we are short on time, so we will reach out to you all individually and get you those answers that you're interested in. This recording, as I mentioned, will be coming out shortly, and we also have a great case study that we did with Dean and Quake that we'll be sharing as well. So a really interesting story about their business and how they've grown and succeeded and how you can too. So thanks for joining us today, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you,
Thanks,
Lisa.
everyone.
Thank you. Yeah. Take care.